Oh, there we go. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Today is Tuesday, March 5th, 2024, and we are here in the Java Cafe. I have someone with us this morning for Women's History Month that I've seen in community for a couple of years now. And this episode has been a couple of years in the making, and I'm excited. I was excited when I discovered which Carmen was coming with us this morning. I had the pleasure of a couple of months ago hearing her and seeing her in action at Daniel Laurent's premiere of his documentary around domestic violence. And so I see her active on social media. As I said before, I see her in community as well. And so without further ado, I would like to ask the Java family to welcome Carmen Blyden, who is an executive life coach. Don't sit there and look shy. You will know it. Just act like this is you and I.
Good morning.
Having a conversation. You got your Java there with you. We got to do better at getting mugs out to our local guests. But welcome to the Java Cafe. Finally, it's so wonderful to have you here, Carmen. And so
Yes,
please
I'm
greet the
excited.
audience and tell them how you're doing. And then we'll get into a little bit about yourself. But because you moved in a mental health space, though this is Testimony Tuesday, when you finish your greeting, end it with one word to describe your mental health like right now.
Okay. So, well, I'm doing great this morning, especially being here with Jimmy. Something that, every time I see Jimmy, I'm like, Jimmy, I'm ready to come on and have that discussion. But I also tell myself God's timing, right? And I feel
Yes, ma'am.
like this is the time for it. And I'm super excited to just be here, sharing with you, Jimmy, sharing with our community, sharing with the world, to talk about the importance of Women's History Month, the importance of our wellness as women, because the better we are for ourselves, the better we can be for our families, our communities, and the world. And so I'm just excited for the opportunity because God has already been working
Yes.
tremendously in this season for me. So, in regards to my mental health, I feel extremely blessed.
Blessed. Okay. So that is your mental health word for today. And I want
That
to jump
is.
right in, Carmen. Well, I want to allow you the opportunity to share some of your journey. And so share some of your journey in reference to how you wound up in this space of being a coach for women. I can't let the notion pass us by that, there's this thing that if you want something done right, give it to a black woman. And you all
Yeah.
hold so much up and you reference to being there for our families and being there
Yeah.
for partners and things like that. And so I do want to at some point tap into that because there's a lot of pressure. There's
Yes.
a lot of fighting that goes
Yeah.
on as well. And so first tell us some of your journey. Who is Carmen? How did she wind up in this place of giving
Yeah.
herself to other women, to excel and be great? Who is Carmen?
Yeah. So, I am a woman on a mission to help other women reconnect with their true selves and step fully and boldly into the power of who they truly are. And this journey for me of just establishing my company, Healthy Energy Actively Living, also known as Heal, really was birthed out of my own healing journey, my own journey of self discovery, reconnecting with who I am at my core. When we're born into this world, we're born as our true selves. We're born as the people we are meant to be. However, along the way, that that plan that was laid out for us is disrupted by the messages we receive, sometimes by trauma, by pain, from what we're seeing in our families, from what our families expect of us, from what our communities, our society expect of us, that can take us further and further away from our true selves, trying to follow that plan, trying to follow the blueprint that we are given by others. And it can lead to us climbing the ladder in the wrong direction. So most of my life, I found myself wanting to be successful, especially after giving birth to my son at the age of 14. And after, what I was told was the biggest mistake of my life, and that I would never accomplish anything or be much more thereafter, I found myself in a fight
Mm.
to prove myself to the world, to prove that I was worthy of love, to prove that I was smart, to prove that I was worthy of time and attention, to prove my value. And in that quest to prove myself, I actually lost myself, right? With the degrees, getting the jobs, the people pleasing, trying to be everything so that people can at least see me. And the reality is, they never saw me because I never saw myself.
It
And
is it is so interesting that you end on that point because what you do, and thank you one for being transparent and authentic in your journey, but what you do now is you help other women see themselves. A-
themselves.
and one thing that stood out was that you mentioned that you were on the ladder and climbing the wrong way. And I think that's where I really want to maybe spend a few minutes
Yeah.
and talk about, Naisha D, who I'm sure you know from Pure
Yes.
Smart.
Yes,
She
my
often
girl.
talks about the rigor that was required when she was in financial services and
Hmm.
in the corporate world. We know that Black women are the number one demographic of entrepreneurs in the country right now. We know that they also are fought in many ways. Dr. Gay,
Yes.
and other women. Our congresswoman is, constantly receiving threats for the work
Yes.
and stuff that she does. And so I just want to name that and ask you to chat with us a little bit about what was the road to discovery. And it was a little bit in your story, but what was the tipping point when you said, okay, you stopped on the ladder and you're like, wait, hey, I'm holding this. Erica Badu says bag lady. You probably
Bag
had
lady. I had all
sis.
the bags.
So what was the tipping point to where you said, okay, here and no further, and you shifted sort of your mindset, which I
Yeah.
presume then was behavior, and then you sort of settled in this piece of um um prioritizing yourself, still having the goals,
Yeah.
but prioritizing yourself. So let's go deeper into that.
Yeah, I would say the breaking I had a breaking point. I had a point where I had become so overwhelmed,
Yeah.
so tired, so exhausted, and I'm like, I'm so unhappy, so unfulfilled despite all the work I'm putting in. I'm putting in the work,
Yeah,
y'all.
yeah, yeah.
I'm putting in the work. But
Trust
why
this.
am I still so unhappy? And my hair started falling out. I was having hives every day. I was getting sick with sinus infections more often than anyone should. And I felt myself turning to alcohol as a way to cope, as a way to just sleep, as a way to quiet my mind. And I got to a point where I was either going to commit suicide or get help. Those were my two options. It was, I could not carry on this way, and so I decided I would get help
Yep.
because,
We're so glad that you didn't die
yeah,
by suicide and decided to get help because for a lot of folks, sometimes in the heat of all that's going on, there's the notion of I'd just be better if I take myself out of here.
yeah. Right, because
That's
you're
real.
the thought is, "I'm working so hard.
Yeah.
How much harder can I work? And if I go any harder, I'm gonna either die anyway," right? And,
Mm.
my mom actually committed suicide, and I'm not sure why, but I would say that she was under a lot of pressure as a Black woman in this world. And so when I decided to get the help that I needed, it really opened my eyes to my level of codependency, right? My reliance on external influences, people to feel something, to feel good about myself, to feel worthy. And the funny thing is when my therapist said to me, Carmen, no offense, you're codependent. At first I'm thinking, excuse you? I'm a strong Black woman. I don't
I
depend on
ain't depending on
nobody
nobody.
for nothing. I do it all, but I really had to take a moment to digest what he was telling me. And that was really a turning point of really taking my power back, right? Which is,
Mhm.
my shirt says walking in my power, taking my power back to create the life that I was truly designed to live. And that really started with saying yes to myself.
So let's go there. First of all, I'm going to ask you a very interesting question. Do Black women and women that carry so much and do so much, do they have a right to prioritize themselves?
Absolutely. It's your birthright. Right? Making yourself your number one priority, the top of your to-do list every single day is your birthright. And, I'm a very spiritual person, and I like to ask everyone to keep in mind that this is a vessel that we have been blessed with. If we don't take care of this vessel, if we don't take care of this whole body, mind, body, soul, spirit, then we will not be here to do for anyone else or ourselves or the world.
So let me ask you, because that's a given. The notion of sort of the airplane thing, you put your mask on
Mhm,
before somebody else's, and you're no good to nobody else unless you take care of yourself. That's become a cliche. Let's just keep it
mhm.
100.
Yeah,
But
but they
Black
still
women,
not doing it, Jimmy.
come, they hear it and it goes in one ear and comes out the other, because obviously through just numbers that we see around diabetes and heart
Everything.
disease and whatnot. Now we know
Obesity,
there's social determinants outside of them that impact them.
absolutely.
But okay, so you told us about your tipping point when you made the decision. What is it that you would say to women right now to encourage them to either approach their tipping point or create it? Because it a majority of them are not doing that. They're
Right.
trying to put their mask on while still putting the kids, for example, or their spouse or the
Mhm.
world or the business's mask on as well. How do they approach and create their tipping point to where they put their mask on
Yeah,
every
and then
day, you said?
it's doing that, shifting that focus inward to ask yourself, "Am I happy?"
Okay.
Right? Am I happy? And most women don't know whether or not they're happy because they never take the time to evaluate their own wellness, right? Most women don't even know what makes them happy. But asking yourself, am I happy in my life right now? Am I happy where I am? And then making a decision to look at where the areas in your life that you're pouring so much into you that is depleting your energy, that is depleting your joy. I've heard so many women say, as long as my family and my kids are well taken care of, I'm happy. And the results have proven that's a lie, because these kids are happy. The
Their kids
husbands are
are happy,
happy.
but they the
Okay.
ones that be depleting it. Let's keep it 100. And not in a bad way,
It's
but
not.
supporting, getting the
So
lunch ready, clothes,
all of it.
homework, issues, just
And it never stops. So at some point, the only way that you can authentically, right, and fully pour into someone else is being full yourself. So those things are not going to stop. We got to take care of these kids, right? We have to parent. But when those kids are off living their lives, they're at school, they're sleeping, what is when you have to be very intentional about, all right, this is my time to do the things that bring me joy, to do the things that fill me up, to do the things that take care of my health. But too often you're too tired to even do that because it's not intentional. You're not planning for you, you're planning for everyone else, and then trying to give yourself what's left. And there's nothing left.
it's so interesting because my old pastor used to teach this notion that you can't give out. You really, a lot of people will say, well, when my cup is full, I can give out. No, when your cup is full, that's you. It's
That's
just
it.
full.
You give from
It's the
overflow.
all the
It's the overflow that goes to everyone else.
and not just Black women, but us in the helping field. Period. I don't think we do well at keeping our cups full, but we're going to
You
stay.
talk about it,
We're
right?
going to stay focused. Go ahead. Go ahead. You talk
Right,
about it.
because there are so many individuals, and I have been one of those people who have built and developed codependent relationships, believing that it's my responsibility to take care of people, it's my responsibility to make sure people are good. No, it's actually your responsibility to be an example of what it looks like to take care of yourself. That's your responsibility,
Hold
right?
on,
So
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on.
let's drink.
That one just Ow. Okay,
right?
go
It's
ahead.
your responsibility to be an example. Even for me as a mom, my son expects me to do everything for him. And I remind him, you're old enough and well enough to take care of yourself. So, how do I show him that? I show him that by taking care of myself, by saying no to him, which also gives him permission to say no to others. So, when you're setting boundaries for yourself, when you're showing up for yourself, you actually inspire others to do the same for this because they're seeing you shining. They see you out here like, wow, okay, so maybe I should start saying yes to myself a little more often, right? The problem is you want to be seen in a good light. I'm afraid to hurt people's feelings. Meanwhile, you're in pain.
You're hurt.
You're
Being
hurt,
afraid to Carmen, you messing with some stuff today. Go ahead.
right? And so we have to really ask ourselves, are we really helping people or hurting them? By
Or
taking
ourselves.
Oh, right. But we're also hurting others. When we take full responsibility for their needs, we're not allowing them to find their strength. We're not allowing them to own their power to say, wow, there is really something in me where I can show up and really take care of myself as well. Right. So we're taking their power away. We're giving our power away when we show up in that way. But when you allow people, when you teach people how to show up for themselves, they will be way more successful. They will have much more impactful, better quality of lives when they have the skills. For me as a coach, I'm going to teach you the
Mhm.
skill. I'm going to teach you how to do the work for yourself so that you feel proud of the person you are every single day because of the decisions you've made for yourself.
It kind of goes to the notion of oh god, an age. I just lost it that quick.
Mm.
When you said doing it for yourself, it'll come back in a second. But there is so much to unpack here because there's the health, which part of that, behavioral health and mental health is health. There's
Yes.
that perspective of it. And I want to tap a little bit into because I heard you refer to a therapist. Now, some may believe, you're on a healing journey. You're on, you're a healer and a coach and whatnot. So, do you look in the mirror and do your own therapy? You go to therapy. As someone that is coaching and how important has the intentionality around being mentally well and when there are illnesses, addressing mental illnesses or times when you're not feeling that well, how important is it to be intentional about locking down a therapist and maybe a coach that you the other thing I just thought about is that is someone that is away from your children, away
Yes.
from your family. They're not your girlfriend.
Yes.
Because sometimes girlfriends have pillow talks with their partners and then they go back and talk
Yes.
to the partner, and then your partner's coming home talk about so.
Yeah.
So that's an advantage as well. They're away from the
Yes.
situation. How important has therapy been for you?
So, I'm not in therapy now,
Okay.
but when I was in therapy, therapy was really the work that I was able to do to go and resolve my past trauma, right?
Yep.
Because so one understanding the difference between a therapist and a coach, whereas a therapist really helps you to go back and find out what are the things that are contributing to your mental challenges, right? Your challenges with just going forward in life, your challenges with trying to have peace and joy in your life. What are the things that are really holding you back? And it's really sometimes I had a lot of trauma in my life, but what I did was I suppressed it. But I didn't realize how much control it still had over
Mm,
me. And uncovering that, things I forgot about, uncovering that with my therapist helped me to really learn more about myself. Then, I have also I still work with coaches. So a coach's responsibility is to meet you where you are today and help you move forward to the place you want to go, right? A coach doesn't dig up your trauma, doesn't go into your past. That's your therapist's job because coaches are not equipped for what may come up in that space.
mm,
And so for me as a coach, my clients work with me and their therapist. And sometimes me and their therapist work together on their plan for how we're going to support them in moving forward and really self actualizing because that is
mm.
the goal, right? Self actualization. And so, really understanding what you need and not being afraid to shop around to say, because here's the thing, one therapist doesn't fit all.
They say it's it's close to dating, similar to maybe for coaches, your
Absolutely.
doctor. Carmen, we have to go pay one bill and come right back. Folks, we're going to continue and get ready to wrap up with Carmen in just a couple of seconds, but we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back with you.
For the innovators, the dreamers, the risk takers, independent workers who keep our neighborhoods thriving, Connector Care from the Massachusetts Health Connector has plans for every lifestyle and budget.
Having access to affordable healthcare is for everyone in our community.
Connector Care plans help more people save on healthcare that covers all their needs. Find out if you qualify for Connector Care. Visit mahealthconnector.org or call 1-877-MA-ENROLL.
Folks, if you're just joining us, we are speaking with Carmen B of Heal with Carmen B. And I want to make sure you know where you can follow her over on Instagram. That is at Heal with Carmen B. And also, we're in the middle of a conversation discussing, and these are some questions, some tools that you can walk away with asking yourself to get you on the road to thinking about healing. The first one is, are you happy? The second one is what areas are depleting your energy? And you also have to be intentional about your time and joy. We did talk a little bit about, having a therapist and maybe a coach that is away from your world and your environment. And we understood the difference between a therapist and a coach. A therapist is clinically trained to help you deal with the stuff from your past. A coach is trained to get you from where you are now on a trajectory to where you're going. And another question you want to ask yourself on this journey is, are we helping people, helping them? That one was deep. It's sort of, this is the thing I was thinking of earlier. The best thing that you could, what is it? You can lead not lead a horse. What is it? You can teach a man, you can give a man a fish or something. And then, but if you teach him to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime.
He'll eat forever.
So that was what I was thinking of earlier. I told you it kicks in. And so, Carmen, in a few minutes, we're going to get ready to wrap up. But with all that's going on, are there some tools that you can share, not just with Black women and women, but just all of us? We see negative media. This is Super Tuesday. The election is going on. We'll see, some air of what may happen in November and all that stuff. The children, the spouse, the job, the hair. What are you going to cook? The outfit that you need for the Ellie Fund breast cancer thing on Sunday. I mean, there's so much. What are some skills that you employ to keep yourself centered and to keep yourself focused so you can continue, as you all do, be all things to all people? And so what are some skill sets that maybe we can walk away with in keeping ourselves focused and keeping ourselves healed or on that healing journey?
Yeah. So I would say the top two things, ask for help, which is one of the biggest challenges that Black women face, is asking for
Wait a
help.
minute. Now, the belief is that the men are the last. What, you know what? In real time, I got it. Because
Strong Black women, we got it all.
They won't.
Right?
That's interesting because the narrative is that the men are the ones that won't ask for help. But who are we asking for help all the time?
Listen.
Sorry.
Exactly. Exactly. T to that.
Hold on.
Okay. That is it, right? Okay. And so for Black women to be able to say, you know what, right now I need support. We have all of these incredible communities. We have all these friends who we talk to every day, but we're afraid to say, sis, I can really use your help here.
Why?
Right.
Does it show vulnerability or what?
Exactly. It shows the vulnerability, and vulnerability for us, just even the Black community, seen as weakness, right? So for me, as a Black woman, people look at me and they think, oh, she has it all together. And I let them know, I could not do this without my mother. I could not do this without my community. I call my Ma, you busy? I need you. Right? I call my friends. I let them know, listen, sis, I could really use your support right now because I've built that type of community where we can lean on each other outside of, girl, what you doing this weekend?
Yeah.
Right? We have to really identify the people that we can be vulnerable with, right? And so that's number one. But secondly, it's also about being intentional with your time and your energy. One thing people have mistaken balance to mean is making time to do all the things, right?
Yeah.
The truth is, balance is making time and space for what truly matters. Sometimes sitting down and watching whatever show that is you watching, it doesn't truly matter. Does it contribute to the life you want? Does it contribute to the woman that you're becoming, the life that you desire to experience, right? Sometimes, maybe the laundry doesn't have to be folded right now. Listen, I did laundry 2 days ago. It's still sitting, right? And
We're
so
not going to talk about unfolded laundry and how long it's.
but the what plays in our mind is, as women, if we don't have all these things done properly, if the dishes are not washed, if the laundry is not folded, if I don't cook dinner today, honey, order out, right? It's making time and space for what matters. Not doing all the things your mother did, your grandmother did, all the women in your family did does not make you less of a woman. This is your story. This is your life. And you have to own your power to write your narrative, not the narrative you've been given, not the narrative you've been watching and trying to emulate. It's time to write the narrative that works best for the life that you want, that you deserve, that you desire.
It's interesting because I want to go a little bit to the comments, and they are in here. Anna Maven is in the building. Good to see you, sis. There are
Good morning,
comments like
Anna.
Naraki that's listening out from Southeastern Mass. We're expected to be strong and push through for the sake of everyone else while we're dying on the inside. Heidi says that hello, say the say the whole thing. My mom says here that we're so used to just pushing through all of it. And I mean, I
Yeah.
seen my mother, push through a
Yeah.
lot. So that is I've seen it, myself. And Naraki says sure does come out in other ways, as far as if we're not supporting and if women are not taking care of themselves, it will come out. You mentioned hair loss. You mentioned sometimes being,
Everything.
the wonderful sister that's real nice. She going through something. You ask her something one day and she get a little snarky and snap.
Mhm.
You're like, wait.
But it impacts your relationships. It impacts your leadership. It impacts every dimension of your life. It impacts your ability to climb the ladder in the direction you truly desire to climb if you are not taking care of yourself.
The thing I just imagined was, you remember Chutes and Ladders?
Yes.
And if you're not careful and being distracted and focus on you remember the ladder, I mean the slide that would
Coming
take you
right
back
down. Coming down.
to the bottom. Ooh, Carmen, this was good.
One last
Go
comment
ahead,
I
go
want to
ahead. You're
make
good.
is, in the comments, we saw that we're expected to push through, we're expected to do it all. But I want you to really ask yourselves, whose expectation is it?
Ooh, say that one more again.
Whose expectation it is? Because it's time to turn the focus on yourself. It's time to look in the mirror and ask yourself, how am I hurting me? Whose expectation is this really? Have your kids, have your spouse, have your friends, have they said, show up for me or else? Or have you made a decision and said, because I love them, I'm going to do this? The question is, do you love yourself enough to push back and say, there's about to be some changes around here?
No, go ahead.
Right?
Go ahead. You stay right there. Yep. We
Right?
gonna close out with this. Go ahead.
There's about to be some changes around here. So y'all gonna start helping me clean up. I'm not doing everything at work. I'm not showing up first thing in the morning and being the last person. As a matter of fact, I'm taking 2 mental health days a month, right? There's going to be some changes around here. It's time for you to start saying yes to yourself more often than you feel the need to say yes to others.
I listen, I'm in the back here putting up some of these points, Carmen, to make sure we got good. Oh, come on. All right, there we go. It's not working with me. There we go. Okay. So I am back on screen because I wanted to make sure that folks got that in its full capacity. And I just want to review everything. And we're going to start from the last thing you said. Do you love yourself enough? And this is interesting because I spoke with a author. I believe it was The Madness. I can't remember. Antonia Hilton. She wrote this book, and what we discovered in that episode is we all have to get to a point that we love ourselves enough to make the changes, and not only loving ourselves enough, but another E word that kind of made me to go ouch is being the example. Especially when it comes around self-care and take care of yourself. So we'll talk about that later. Whose expectation am I living up to? That gets dictated by media as you said, with all due respect to our ancestors, our aunties
Absolutely.
and our mommies and whatnot, it was a different time.
Times have changed.
Self-care, awareness of self-care and listen, knowledge is power. That power, walking in your power, and knowledge
Walk
is
in
a
your
huge
power, right? And
it-
remember our ancestors, our grandparents, they were living in a time where they didn't have a choice. Today, we have a choice
mm,
to put ourselves first. Well, actually, they didn't believe they had a choice, right? But now, like Jimmy said, we're living in a time of awareness, of understand. My grandmother died, she was just 55 years old. 55 years old because she refused to put herself first.
and see, we that is something that we have to stop. And we talk about it, and it's become such a cliche.
Yep.
At the thank you for the challenge of being the example. I know it. We talk about it on the platform, but to hear it articulated like that when it was not expected, I was like, "Oh, gotta go get a band-aid." Because we promote it and we talk about it,
Yeah.
and sometimes we're the worst offenders
Yes.
because we're so busy talking about it.
Yes.
I want to make sure I cover everything. The first thing is, if you would like to hear more from Carmen, she puts reels up and little thoughts and things like that on social media. So please go right now and follow her. Comment on her post and say, "Hey, I heard you on Java with Jimmy, and I'm here." But some questions you want to ask yourself as you're getting on the road. And Carmen, you can go. I'll put them on the screen, and you can speak to them as we go down the line. This first
Yeah.
one here.
Am I happy? Be honest with yourself, right? We wear the mask of joy, we wear the mask of happiness, but deep down, you're struggling. You're struggling with these negative thoughts. You're struggling with emotions that you're afraid to share. And it's really facing those thoughts, facing those emotions. Because the other thing is, we stay busy in the doing for others and the doing, because we're running away from ourselves. We're running away from our truth. And so the moment you decide to face your truth is where your healing can begin,
Mm. And then
right?
this next one, what's depleting my energy?
Yeah. So really looking at every area of your life where you're pouring into, whether it's your children, your family, your spouse, even your community, right? We have people working in the community and they outside every single day. Oh, I'm a community worker. I'm here to move the community. But sis, you're dying. You're not taking care of
It ain't
yourself.
just sis, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
And bro, absolutely, right? What the community needs is to see healthy people in this community. They need to see what health looks like. They need to see the there's a word. Ooh. Anyways, they need to see the expectation for health for all of us, right?
Mhm.
If I'm outside every single day, all day, what time am I spending taking care of myself? Right? There's other people who can step up and do the work too, sis and bro. It doesn't all have to be you. Right? And so ask yourself, where am I pouring all my time, all my energy, and how do I feel after I pour? Right?
Mm.
Because when you pour out, you should not feel depleted, exhausted. Because if you're pouring from overflow, honey, your cup is still full.
We gonna go
That
right
means
back.
you're
Stay there.
pouring, right, from empty and half cups. Right? And so really do that deep dive to ask yourself, where am I giving so much of myself and how can I pull back? Because you have to take action. It's not
Mhm.
enough to just do the evaluation.
Yeah,
Then you have to take action. Where can I begin to pull back so that I can pour more into myself?
absolutely. This next one, be intentional. You touched on it a little bit. Be
Yeah,
intentional about your time and joy. And then also with that, where you're putting your time and energy, are we actually helping people, helping them?
right. And you see this even more in parenting relationships
Yeah.
with parents who, I'm gonna do everything for my children because I'm their mom or I'm their dad. And then you get upset when your kids don't know how to do nothing for themselves. Right? When they want to stay on the couch, when they don't have any motivation, they don't have any ambition or any goals set for themselves because you haven't allowed them to come into the fullness of who they are because you've decided that you're going to cripple them. And that's really what you're doing. You're crippling them. But even as a leader, just a quick story because I know we're
Go ahead.
wrapping up.
Go
But
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, when I started my job as a director, my past job, my most recent job, I remember when I came in and the past leader had done everything for the team. And so I was like, I'm not doing that. There's no reason I should be doing that. And everybody was up and up. Oh, well, this is how things have always been done. And, this makes our lives easier. So your life easier, my life harder. Right. So even as a leader, you want to teach people in your organization, in your teams. You want them to bringing the best out of them is challenging them to show up, challenging them to practice their skills, to practice their gifts. You doing everything for them doesn't make you a good leader. It makes you a leader with low confidence, right? Because if you are doing everything for them, one, you're trying to prove yourself,
Mm.
right? But you're also not allowing them to build confidence in themselves, in their skills, and it shows your lack of trust for their abilities.
The other piece there is we talk about codependency, and neither one of us are clinicians, but that's a piece of it too, because subconsciously, are we creating an environment where they're dependent on us because we're codependent on their dependence?
Absolutely.
I got
Absolutely. In every dimension of our lives and all the relationships, we create these codependent relationships that continue to deplete us and cripple others.
Here's another piece that's say in that same vein. Ask for help. When we get to a point where, okay, I can't do everything, ask for help. And that's sort of self-explanatory. You get to, and can you just talk a little bit about the fact that there's no shame? There's nothing wrong. And can I just say that there were two things today that even at 52 and being in this world, and I think I'm kind of smart, a lot of things that you alluded to is a presumption and a narrative that's often promoted about men and Black men. And to hear, because my presumption is y'all get in the room, y'all get on Zoom, get in the chat. Oh, and it's just open vulnerability all day and sis and love. And to hear you say that that's an area where the sisters,
we got women flexing muscles too. We got women and
they got every right to flex.
But I'm saying flexing egos, right? And in that ego, they're actually hurting themselves and the people that they're around. Because in my vulnerability gives others permission to be vulnerable.
But what is the value? We talk about that. Let me ask you, why be vulnerable? What is the impact? What is the benefit of being vulnerable in general? Why? Because we
show your true self. In vulnerability, you show your true self. You show your humanness, right? We live in a world where everybody's expected to be a robot, right? To just go, to have all the answers. Like we're supposed to be iPhones ourselves, right? And remember, even your iPhone needs to be charged up to work completely, to work well. Right. And so in vulnerability, you get to show your humanness, but that's also where you make the deepest connections. There are so many surface level connections that are happening in our community, in our circles, even in our families, right? With all of these transactional relationships, what can I get from this one? And no one wants to go deeper because they're afraid, well, what if they see that I don't know it all? Well, guess what? If they see that you don't know it all, they might have something to give you.
Oh,
they might have something to share with you. Oh, sis, I know someone that can help you with that. Or, oh, sis, I got you, and vice versa. Because we all, no matter how smart you are, how old you are, we all have something that we can pour into one another. But you can't pour into a closed vessel. And when you're not vulnerable, you are closed.
We're just going to move on to the next point because there's nothing to be said there. Be intentional about your time. This is good. Be intentional about your time and energy.
Yeah.
Again,
So that intentionality goes back to who do you want to be? Who are you? Who do you want to be? What's the desire you desire? What's the life you desire to live? And are your actions, are the people you're surrounding yourself with, do they align with that? Is the way that you're showing up every day, does that align with what you say you want? Because too often we're saying, hey, I want to build a business. I want more connected relationships, deeper relationships. I want to be healthier. I want to lose weight. But yet none of the actions that we do align with the words that we're saying. Being intentional means aligning your words and your actions for what you're saying you want. So if you know that you want to lose weight, it's planning that gym time, it's planning those meals, it's making sure that I'm eating properly. I'm not eating out 4 and 5 days a week. You want to have more connection and relationships. For me and my son, I have a date night with my son every single Sunday, where no matter what I got going on in my life, the world shuts down for him,
Mm.
because I want to have that deep connected relationship with my baby. And so we have to be very intentional. Unless, when you're not intentional, your life is like a
Anything.
leaf
Oh,
blowing in the wind,
it's ooh,
right? You're like a leaf blowing in the wind, moving in every direction, moving
with
with
every wind of
everyone's
doctrine.
motion. Exactly. Right? But when you're intentional, you can build a solid foundation that you can build upon.
That is good. How old is your son? Because you said baby, and I'm
My
about
baby's
to laugh at
11.
you.
That's
Oh,
my
okay, so he's still a baby. If
he's
you
my
was about to say
baby.
21, you don't look old enough to have
No, my
a
oldest is
one-year-old.
26 and I have 2 grandkids, but I have the baby at home with me. So, I'm very intentional about, because
You a
I
grandma,
didn't
Carmen?
I am a grandma. I have 2 grandbabies, my grandson and my granddaughter,
I would
but
I would have never known, Jesus.
I
Let's
know.
let's finish the business, and then
God is good.
black don't crack. We can close out with some black joy. Whose expectation am I living up to? We just covered that, so that was sort of
Yes.
just covered as well. And then the last one, I think, in all of this is the foundation to it's a question, but if I were to ask you, Carmen, to speak to, if you were speaking to a room of 4,000 women
Mhm.
and giving them some pointers about loving themselves and affirming them in their worth and value, what is it that you would say to them?
The first thing I would say is, you can't love someone you don't know. You can't love someone you don't know. So the road, the path to really beginning an authentic self-love journey is through self-discovery. Asking yourself those hard questions, those questions that force you to look at yourself, look at your decisions, look at your actions, and ask you why. Why am I making these decisions? Especially that one of, whose expectations of am I living up to? Right? Because sometimes we're living up to the expectations of people that don't even exist. Right? People who have moved on, people who ain't even thinking about you, sis. Right? And so it's asking yourself those really hard questions of, who am I? We have attached our identity to motherhood, to leadership, to entrepreneurs, to everything except for really learning who we are within. Once you get to learn who you are, you can begin to love every part of that person. But again, it's hard to love someone you don't know. Don't be scratching your head, Jimmy.
I'm the we focusing on Women's History Month and Black women,
Yes.
but I'm walking away with a few nuggets here. Carmen, as you said in the beginning, I believe that timing is everything. And you're a woman of faith. For such a time as this, I think it
Yes.
was so appropriate for you to come into the Java Cafe. The largest portion and the largest population, and Tashad from Boston While Black said mercy. It's so interesting. And a good sister is in Dina as well. I've seen her do some things in community and just her growth as well. Charmaine Arthur is in the building, who owes me a phone call, but we'll talk about that later. It is so important that we take these nuggets away and keep ourselves as a priority, because the paradigm, I think, has to shift. We talk about all these other paradigms, post George Floyd, post COVID,
Yeah.
but the paradigm of where Black women are valued, how they're valued, the dependency we have on them. I don't think we're ever going to give up our dependency. Y'all are just
No.
so ingrained and rooted in who we are. But I think the balance is also here and no further. And I'm going to go ahead and say this, brothers and children and whatnot, even if the motive is selfish, they'll still have the same outcome. Ease up on them, because you're going to need them at another iteration.
Right.
Motive may be impure, but by any means necessary, we have to protect our Black women and protect ourselves. And so, Carmen, I'm so glad that you were with us today. I think this was such an appropriate time. I want to do a goal setting. I went to a goal setting seminar last year, and Carmen B was one of the speakers. She is amazing, and she uses her gifts for good.
Thank you.
And Michelle, who's my guest also on Thursday, as said in the Bible, love your neighbor as you love yourself.
That's
You
the
can't love
part,
others
sis.
if you don't love yourself. So come check her out on Thursday. Carmen. But no, I really appreciate you being here. And folks, don't forget, let's go and blow up her followers. I already follow her. So my number won't add. Go over to Instagram and follow Carmen. Stay up to date. Information about reaching out to her if any of you want to chat with her or check in and find out her fees.
Yes.
This ain't
Yes.
free. And find
This
out
is
her
the
fees.
year.
Listen, sis, that's a whole nother Zoom in itself, because we also got to do better at requesting our worth. Be sensitive to, have a sliding fee scale mentality for the community, but at least there be a sliding and not just started from the bottom. Now,
and that is self-love. That is self-love. Know your worth.
What you call it? It ain't, Heidi said it ain't free.
No.
So, Carmen, thank you for being here. We'll get you some information. Please feel free to have a table at our upcoming health fair on May 11th. I think it would be so important for you to be there. And so thank you so much. Auntie Java says
you.
She's in as well. Hello. So, Carmen, thank you for being with us, and we'll follow up and keep us abreast of stuff that you're doing. And I'm sure I'll see you soon. We have the Boss Summit coming up. We have other few events coming up in community. So, and I hope to see you out at the anniversary.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, and blessings to all of you.
Absolutely. Thank you, sis. Listen, folks, if you just coming in and you're late, go back and watch the after watch because she dropped a whole bunch of nuggets here. And so I appreciate her coming in with us. Listen, we're going to keep this going this week and keep you reminded that tomorrow we're speaking with Mayor Michelle Wu, as we do on every first Wednesday, chatting with her. And there's a whole lot to chat about things and that's going on. And yeah, we're going to chat with her about a few things tomorrow. And then also on Thursday morning, a Java family member who was active here this morning with us, Michelle D. Smith from Mission Possible Collaborative, will be with us to talk about a lot. And so I'm looking forward to chatting with her on Thursday as well. And as I've been mentioning, please keep the dates of March 21st through 23rd in line. Flyers are coming out, so I'm not going to go through the explanation now. Shout out to everyone over on Instagram that's listening. Lisa V. I see Joe Rowe came in the building for a second. And Brandon as well, and Kareen, our nightlife czar, Elijah as well from Thumbprint. Good to see you all over on Instagram. Thank you for being here this morning. UCB, you all get an hour today. It's 9:51, and we'll see everyone tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. with our Mayor Michelle Wu. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.